Welcome to Sports in the 607, where we talk games people play. Here's your host, Bob Michaels.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome. We get ready to talk sports of all things here, and one phrase I'm going to throw out is travel ball. And who better to ask than two experts that are with us right now, Toni and Matt Johnston. And if you're not familiar with the Johnston clan, by the time the interview is over, we'll know quite a bit about the family clan. But all things being equal, the last time I saw these two folks were at the New York State Softball Championships in Binghamton. And Matt and Toni have been very active in the success of the Lady Hawks at Corning. And first and foremost, welcome.
Thanks
you. Thanks for having us, Bob.
So a very busy time this year, and for the two of you as far as travel ball is concerned, kind of marks the end of the road and looking for another sign to follow. But with all that being said, how about a little bit of a history lesson when the two of you actually got involved with the group that is known as the Rebels?
Well, for me personally, I was around in 1994 when their inception came about. Jeff Edwards, Craig Malazzo, Mike Misuch, and Kelly Gorman, now Kelly Fessich, were the original four coaches of the only Rebels team that they had at the time. So they kind of mirrored themselves uniform-wise like the Yankees did. They were gray with the pinstripes because they were all Yankees fans, still are. Don't like to admit it some days, but... So that was my original take on the Lady Rebels. Now, I followed them through the years, and then when our daughter was coming of age, she was playing for the Horseheads Blast 8U, and it was time to turn over to travel ball at that time. So reached out to Craig and Jeff, and my brother Mike and Tom Snyder were coaching the 18U team at the time.
Okay.
Jeff and Craig bowed out in 2017. They had their fill. They had spent all their time and their efforts and teaching and training, and they were ready to go. So Toni and I decided that we wanted to take over, and we came on board. And myself, Toni, my brother Mike, Rick Griska, former Horseheads head coach, Andy Scott, obviously a Horseheads head coach in multiple sports. Mike Maloney from Rainbow Lettering, he was a huge part of it. And we brought on a team from Pennsylvania. So we had teams at all the levels, 10U, 12U, 14, 16, and 18. So at that time we had 5 teams, excuse me.
And so you had individual coaches for those particular age brackets?
Correct.
Right.
So Mike and Tom were the 18U coaches. So any players that moved up to 18U, they played for them.
Well, fundamental basketball, football, baseball, and in this case softball, is very integral as far as success is concerned. And I know my experience as a broadcaster in covering many of the high school softball games, we've seen that. And it's quite a ritual, Matt, when I look at the kids. I mean, I guess the old thought was, well, you'd just put the bats and balls out there and let the kids play, but it's a little more involved as far as that concern. And Toni, I'm sure you can address that issue, having been an outstanding athlete at the high school level at Groton and moving on to college ball at Alfred State. Talk about what it was like for you at that time, looking at the changes that have been made here in 2025.
But it's a big difference. So when I was starting out, at Maddie's age now, so, when I was 12, 13 even, is when we started playing school ball and then getting into a travel, but travel was not as prominent as it is now. Mm-hmm. You had a local team that, got the best of the best in the area together. So now you see that we have multiple travel teams. There's a lot more competition. So I do see that over the years, it's certainly changed.
We're going to take a break right here. We'll be back to talk more about the Rebels and the continuation of softball and the development of great stars in the region. That's right after this. Sports in the 607 is presented in part by Empire Sports of the Southern Tier. Hey everybody, today we're talking with the Johnstons. And there's so many around. The picture is, I guess, kind of expanding, or maybe it has expanded through the years. My first involvement with the Johnston clan was when Matt, sorry, I had a brain freeze there for a moment, Matt. But there's so many of you. I jokingly say sometimes that I need a scorecard to tell who's who. But my first involvement was with your dad, Mike Sr., coaching at Elmira Notre Dame. And while I don't remember his playing days at ND and moving on to college ball, certainly he has had an impact on you and your siblings and all of that's concerned. Do you often, being a head coach of sorts, call upon him for expertise? And is he willing to offer you some encouragement, or shall I say, information without being solicited?
Oh, absolutely. You know, any sport that I've coached or Mike has coached, he's always been there. He's been there to kind of be a sounding board. He's been there to offer his advice from opportunities that he's been involved with in his past. He's always willing to help in any way that he can. So I was fortunate enough that when I started getting into coaching, I was with Lou Condon at Watkins Glen High School.
Yes.
They merged with Odessa and became the Seneca Indians at the time. Now they've changed their name. But the original sport was football for the combination of the two schools. And I said to Lou, hey, what better way to get knowledge around us than bring your father, Lou Sr., on, bring my father on, Ward Brower, who had coached at Shenango Forks, at Green, when they were powerhouses. Obviously, Forks is still a powerhouse.
Right.
But so we had, between the five of us at that time, we had 120 some years of coaching. Most of it was from those guys, those three that I named. But, you know, we had some other, Tom Struble came on to help us as well. He went from there and we went down to Elmira together.
Right.
And then when I became the JV head coach at Corning 4 years ago, I asked my father to come be a coach on the staff, because I just knew that he could bring a different element of preparation and teaching and knowledge that a lot of other people couldn't.
Well, those are great resources to draw upon. Both of you being parents of children who have excelled in sports and continue to do so. Your son Gannon played football at Horseheads in Brockport, if I'm not mistaken, in college ball. And your daughter, Maddie, hard to believe that she's going to be a senior coming up here very shortly. Having been a part of great success, and Toni, this is where a mom has the opportunity to beam proudly, because she has achieved so many things at a very young life, and such a very nice person. And it's hard to believe that it's the same person that I talk with before games begin, and then when she gets in the pitcher's circle, it's like that demeanor changes. Which side of the family does that come from?
Well, I would say mine.
Okay.
I keep that little bit more of that calm, under pressure, just sort of don't show that emotion at the time. Yeah.
Right. And
that's a learned skill.
What about the change from your playing days and where we are right now with today's young women who have been involved with travel ball, as your family has been, and moving on to the high school side of things? And we can look a little bit further, because there have been so many talented people that have come out of the Corning softball system that to this day are still excelling at the collegiate level. Is there any preparation, anything different that's being done nowadays as opposed to old school?
It's more specialized, I think, now.
Yeah.
Specialization.
Yeah.
But it also, they start earlier. We used to go out in the backyard and practice ourselves, and a lot of it was self-driven. But now I feel that, they start earlier, they get into travel quicker. So those skill sets are learned at an earlier age.
And they have pitching coaches and hitting
Yes.
coaches and catching coaches and defensive coaches. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much specialization right now that the game has evolved so much that I almost feel like the mind isn't as strong as it once was. It's more regimented than before.
But with two parents who obviously have a gold chipper right there, and I'm saying that with affection because Maddie has certainly not come by it very easily. She's had to work. I know that element. And talking with your brother, Mike, he's not a coach that's going to say, okay, just go out there and play. He's very. He's very matter of fact. He's very particular. There's a regimen, and I see that through the two of you, watching you from the sides and thinking to myself, God, could I listen? Could I work under that type of pressure? Talk about what the demands are nowadays as modern day coaches, guys.
Well, we always say pressure is a privilege.
All right.
So the girls know that without pressure, does your performance really matter? If everything was easy, then everybody would do it.
Okay.
And that's the reason you see a lot of kids stop doing it when they get to a certain level. I think at 14U, that's when kids decide if they're going to continue on with softball, travel ball, things like that, or they decide they just don't want to put the time and effort into it. And that's okay too, because they have a decision. But I just think for us personally, our demands are so high because we want to get the most out of every player that we have. So whether it be a skill work or a drill work or working to get them bigger, faster, stronger in the weight room, whatever it might be, it's all year long. It's not just hey, let's show up in March 16th and let's just get it going. It doesn't work that way.
We're going to get more into that in just a moment. Again, we have to pay the rent, so it's time for another break, and we'll be back right after this. Sports in the 607 is brought to you by Solutions Federal Credit Union. Two good-looking people on your screen, Toni and Matt Johnston. And I use Toni in the frontal introduction because she's the better of the two, but I'll let you folks decide that.
No, you're right.
While we were on break, we had a brief conversation about travel ball. The two of you have indicated that you are done as far as the coaching aspect with the Rebels, but for your daughter, Maddie Johnston, she continues on, and I guess there's no time to rest on your laurels, so to speak. There's an unfinished business at the high school level, but what about the summer right now? Are there national organizations that she's involved with?
Yeah, she's joined on with Rick Way has an organization called Rock Gold, and they're a national organization, and they actually, their 18U team that he coaches just won nationals in Oklahoma right at the end of July, beginning of August. So they're pretty well known, and they travel well, and they compete at the highest level. And he knows so many people that we thought it would be a great opportunity for Maddie to get herself in front of some coaches to get an opportunity that maybe she wouldn't have had with us with the Rebels, because we're a local organization.
Yes. I want to talk about the work that these young women put in, and in particularly since your daughter is a pitcher, rarely do we see her being a position player like playing the outfield, but that happens occasionally. And I can remember one instance last year where You were playing a couple of back-to-back games. It may have been a suspended game, and that's another thing I'd like to talk a little bit about. Most recently, within the past year, you had like a 9-inning game that got called because of darkness and because of conference rules. You had to start over, and I think that was one game that might have taken a toll. Just not so much like in baseball when you throw 85 to 100 pitches. These gals, yeah, they have the underhand delivery, but there's a lot of strength that is needed in the legs and the thrust. And I remember chatting with Maddie, and I said, what were you feeling today? And she says, my legs are really tired. So you mentioned before we went to break about working in the weight room. Are those mandatory in this day and age of softball?
Well, I think so. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is important. They have to have full body strength, endurance, and that's something, though, that they do need to do some of that on their own. So that motivation is important for them to continue. We have long practices as it is. So, like I said, some of that work does have to be put in on their own time.
And we ask of the girls to run a mile every day that we don't have a game. So to help with their conditioning piece. So when they get into the games and they're long games and they're drawn out, in that game that you're speaking of, I think it was 10 inning games.
Okay.
Megan Wolf threw 216 pitches and Maddie had thrown 178 or something to that effect between the two of them.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pitches to throw for those girls.
But it comes down to how successful you are is how much you put into the work. And how good does it feel to have the facilities at your disposal like you do in the Corning School District with that field house, which is 7-8 years old, but the running track, the weight room, all of that continues to evolve. Certainly that says a lot about how much value they put into our student athletes. Would you agree?
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
The tens of millions of dollars that they spend on that facility. I mean, it has a multi-purpose room upstairs where wrestling uses it. Then they clean it off and we put the cages down and we go in and pitch and hit and do all that stuff in there as well. And like you said, the track, the facility's unbelievable.
I work really close with the Booster Club with my play-by-play of games in the Corning School District, for example. And they are a very busy group. And what the Corning School District does not provide, and they do provide a lot, the Booster Club is there to back it up. With all that being said, I would imagine you feel pretty good about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they work hard.
And they do. They fundraise their butts off to afford the kids opportunities to travel, to get new uniforms, to get equipment to utilize in all the sports. So kudos to the members of the Booster Club. For all
Matt
their hard
and Toni, you are part of a very successful program, 2 state championships at the high school level in Corning, and all that being said, you came pretty close last fall, ran into a buzzsaw from the Buffalo area, but I guess it's unfinished work at this point, and we want to get into just a little bit more of that. Once again, it's time to take care of some business, and we'll be back in just a moment. Sports in the 607, brought to you by On a Roll, Hanover Square Horseheads. Talking with Toni and Matt Johnston here on Sports in the 607. I've covered a lot of ground through the years of doing games, which has been primarily between Corning in the west and Elmira in the east. And of course, points beyond that when we go to playoff times. We were talking about funding and traveling and things of that nature. And Matt, Toni, if you would address the matter of going to tournaments during regular season. And Myrtle Beach, South Carolina has predominantly been one tournament site that you all have been involved with. How does that come about when you scout out and which ones you want to be a part of? Or do you know that in the coming year, the coming season, that there are a lot of quality teams that come there to play and test the results?
For me, I know first it's a great opportunity for us to be able to travel, especially being a New York team. You know, we don't have the great weather early in the season, so to allow us to do that is excellent for the girls. Every time we've gone down, we face really good competition overall. So I feel that just gets us more prepared for the season, gives us sort of a good look at some of the areas that we need to work on when we come back, and then we get full force and start our season.
The preparation for all of that, do you know ahead of time who you're going to face, or is it just kind of catch or catch can?
We usually get a couple weeks notice of who we're going to face. We try to face the best teams that are going to be there every year. That's what we ask for, because we don't want to go down and play a team and win 18-0 because our kids aren't learning.
Right.
So we faced the 3 teams we faced last year in the actual games, not scrimmages, because we scrimmaged down there as well. But the 3 teams we faced at one point towards the end of the season were 3 of the top 5 teams in the state of Virginia. So those are the 3 teams that we played against. We won 2 of them, lost 1 to McLean, 1-0. 2-1. So that just prepares us. I mean, you want to play the best so that you're ready to go.
So looking ahead to next season, what are the aspects? I mean, you're going to be the parents of a senior softball pitcher. Probably have a lot of opportunities. I should say Maddie probably has a lot of people inquiring about her skill level and things of that nature. What do you, having been in that position with other players in the Corning Hawks program, what do you look for in terms of advising your players?
We try to tell them to find the right place for them.
Yeah.
It's the right team. It's the right school. It's the right
Feel.
Organization.
Yeah.
And like she said, it's all about feel. Are you getting a good vibe with the coach? When you go to visit the school, are the players receptive? Are they standoffish? Are they cliquey? You know, those are all the things that you just have to keep your eyes out for, and you have to look for what's best for us personally, for Maddie. And she has to make that decision, not us.
All right. Well, we have some final thoughts with the Johnstons. We'll take our final break here on Sports in the 607. Back in a moment. Sports in the 607, presented by First Heritage Federal Credit Union. Well, it's good to see that you've stayed with us, and why not? Because we've got 2 great people who have agreed to chat with me about travel ball and softball at the high school level and the collegiate level as well. Toni and Matt Johnston. Toni coming out of the Groton area, maybe a small school district, but certainly a huge talent, and she took the talent to the collegiate level, won, I believe, a couple of championships at Alfred State, and now the parents of a budding star, I would dare say. She has achieved a lot here at the local level, Maddie Johnson, and guys, as parents and coaches as well, coming up in, let's see, 2026. I guess the aspirations are, let's win as many games as possible. Let's get the states. Certainly wouldn't feel too bad about winning another state championship. Am I right?
You are right.
Well, we got a small chip on our shoulder the size of a boulder right now, after not winning it this past year.
Yes.
So it just makes the kids hungry. And
any special prep that with the new group or with the current group, and you've got a lot of talent there, and maybe you're adding some new youngsters to the mix to kind of stir the pot and bring about a successful adventure?
Absolutely. What we lost 3 seniors?
3 seniors, yes.
3 seniors. They were all starters in the infield for us.
Yes.
So we've got to replace those players, and it's tough to do because their knowledge, their abilities, the way that they prepare for the game. So now we have to teach the younger kids to be in the same mindset.
Yes.
So progression, as we start in the off season, we do our open gyms and things like that, where we start really working to ramp up to day one of practice. And we had a tremendous turnout this last year. I mean, we had JV, varsity, modified kids were all there every time that we had an open gym. So it was really nice to see that. And they want to learn and they want to be taught.
Well, as a broadcaster, I tell people, people say, well, you root for the home team. I said, maybe in some instances where if you go to states and like that and you're playing a team that we aren't that familiar with, but I'm selfish. I tell people all I want is a good game to broadcast, and you all have responded by saying, yeah, we give you competitive games, and that's very true with the Corning Hawks program. I want to wish you a lot of success in the coming school year. And my friends, thank you so much for being a part of this, helping us to expand, what we're attempting to do, and that's just cover people who have been involved, whether as athletes, as coaches, contributors, and good people. And Toni and Matt Johnston, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob, for all you do for the local kids.
We appreciate
it.
you.
Thanks for joining us for Sports in the 607. We'll have another segment coming soon.